Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations on making it through to the end of another week. I hope you guys have a fabulous weekend planned in store for yourselves, filled with relaxation, maybe some fun, whatever it is you need this weekend. That's what I hope you get you rested and ready for another week filled with triumph and glory coming next week. Anyway, guys, it is Friday, and it is so good to have you guys here with us today. Now, today's going to be a little bit more of a casual show, a little bit more laid back. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on in the world of movie news today, which is sometimes the case on Fridays. Do have a couple things that we want to talk about here today, though, and I'm glad you're joining us. And listen, if you're joining us for the first time, or if you haven't done so yet already, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the things that we've got going on around here on the channel. All right, guys. Couple things to talk about here before we get in. We're going to spend most of our day just taking your live questions today. That's what we're going to spend most of our Friday, talking about the things you guys want to talk about. And by the way, if you want to fire in a live question, simply use the tip link that's in the description of this video, or you could enter it in manually at streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's reasonable. And of course, you'll be supporting the show at the same time. And all of us here involved with the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys very, very much for that support. All right, couple things I want to talk about here today. First thing I guess we should bring up is not something that is all that big, to be honest with you. It's really not all that big, but the first images for the new Mortal Kombat movie have come out. Now, there was some whispers that they may drop a trailer today, and maybe they still will at some point. I don't generally get all that excited about first still images because they don't really tell us much. Like, images don't give us a sense of the identity of a movie or anything like that. But still, the first images have come out and they look like Mortal Kombat images. I mean, here you go. Some of them, I mean, they look interesting, but and again, I just want to see these things in a trailer. That's because it's the trailer that you start to get the DNA. You start to get what's the tone of this film really going to be? What's it going to feel like? It's hard to tell that from some still images. And by the way, like, I saw some headlines about how, the new images from Mortal Kombat show us vicious fatalities. And I'm like, I looked through all the images and I'm like, no, they didn't. Not really. Anyway, maybe there'll be a trailer that comes out later today. If not today, what sometimes happens, actually what often happens, is that when a new poster or new promotional images come out, what usually happens, not always, but what usually happens is usually about 24 hours later, a trailer drops. So maybe these images are a harbinger of a trailer to come. Maybe we're still not going to see one for a while. Maybe one will drop a little bit later today. So, hey, the images are there. If you're interested in them, go ahead and look them up. Then hopefully they'll be of interest to you. I'll be honest with you, still images don't do it for me. I want to see a trailer at this point. So there's that. All right. Another thing I just want to touch on here before we get into taking your live questions today is we discussed yesterday WandaVision. Now, WandaVision, of course, is the first MCU thing we've had in a long time, but it is finally here. You know, the first entry of the MCU into the DC or into the Disney Plus universe and stuff like that. Now, I gave you guys my thoughts yesterday on what we got in WandaVision. Now, I have seen the first 3 episodes, and Matt Diedman sends in a super chat badge on the live chat. Thanks for that, Matt. I gave you guys my thoughts on the first 2 episodes at least, but I have seen the first 3. I'm not quite sure why they let us see the first 3 in advance, because they were only launching with the first 2. Not that I'm complaining, any Disney reps who happen to be watching. I'm not complaining. I'm glad I got to see the first 3. But my thoughts on it was basically, it is by far the most different thing we've ever seen. Like, we've never seen the MCU do anything like this. This is completely new and completely different from anything that they've done so far. But anyway, since I gave my little non-spoiler review yesterday, it has now come out and everybody is able to see it. By the way, guys, just going to let you know, today at 4 p.m., that's 4 p.m. Los Angeles time. Today at 4 p.m. Los Angeles time, my wife Ann and I will be doing our open spoiler discussion video live, so you guys can come and join us. Open spoiler discussion video about the first 2 episodes of WandaVision. We will not discuss the 3rd episode because that doesn't come out till next week. But we will be talking about that. So once again, me and Ann today, 4 p.m., just like when we would do the Mandalorian spoiler reviews. That's what we're going to do today. If you're interested in that, come on by and join us for that at 4 o'clock. We hope we see you guys there. All right. So again, kind of reiterating some of the things I said yesterday. WandaVision is like way out there different from anything we've seen in the MCU before. They took some real creative chances. And I gotta say, it is really interesting. They really leaned into this whole sitcom thing even more than I thought they would, like a lot more than I thought they would. Now, I liked it. I liked what we were getting. I was particularly interested in the little teases, the teases we would see in the trailers, by the way. I'm not spoiling anything here. The trailers gave us these little teases that Wanda and Vision, and Zach Woolley sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks, Zach. They send us this message of they're in this sitcom world, but there's something wrong, right? They communicate that in the trailers. And it's the little hints about there being something wrong that really, really got me excited. Now, all the other stuff was very, very good. My wife, on the other hand, was a little bit opposite. Yeah, she was interested in the hints that something might be wrong, but she was loving all the sitcom stuff. Like, she was just ear to ear grin and laughing and chuckling the entire time we were watching it. So she loved it. The reviewers and the critics right now seem to be really liking it. Seem to be really, really enjoying it a lot. So that's good too. And I wanted to ask you guys what you guys thought of it. So a little bit earlier today, just before we started the show here, I put up a poll on my on the community tab on the YouTube channel, asking you guys, what did you think? If you've seen the first couple episodes, what did you think? So I put this up just before the show started. Right now, 4,000 of you, or about 4,000 of you, have responded to the poll. 33% of you are saying it's amazing. 50% of you are saying it's good. 9% are saying not so good. 7% are saying it's terrible. So right now we've got roughly 16 point something percent of you guys who didn't enjoy it. Roughly 84% of you guys who said that you did. So that's where, and that's pretty consistent with what I thought it would be. Because while I enjoyed the first couple of episodes of WandaVision, and my wife lost her mind for it, you could tell, you know what it is? Here's what it is. It reminds me a little bit of Superman Returns. Now, some of you might be saying, John, what the hell are you talking about? This was nothing like Superman Returns. Here's what I mean. This is not, the first couple of episodes of WandaVision, because it is so different, I think it's not going to be what a lot of people are expecting from an MCU program. Whether it's a movie or a TV show or whatever, I think there's a lot of people out there who went into it expecting one thing because they know what to expect generally from, these superhero movies or superhero shows out there today. And what they delivered was instead something very unique and very different. And I think that's going to rub some people, or at least initially hit people maybe the wrong way. And I think there's a good chance of that. The reason I compare it to Superman Returns is that, I consider Superman Returns to be a very good movie. It's just a very bad comic book movie. It was not what people were expecting going into a big comic book movie called Superman, right? But as I was watching WandaVision, I had that feeling. I had this feeling this isn't going to be for everybody. But you know what? That's what's going to happen. Whenever you ask somebody to do something new and different, then we can't get mad at them when they do something new and different. But again, I can understand that some people tuned in expecting to see some big Wanda and Vision battling some army of robots, because that's what the MCU does. And instead, they gave us a very unique vision. Vision, no pun intended. I thought, and by the way, can I just say this? Can I say this? Let me see if I can find this here. I should have brought this up earlier, but I didn't. Can I just say that while we fully expected Paul Bettany to be great, and we fully expected, everyone, we expect everyone to be good in it, right? One of the things that I was really excited about was the addition of Kathryn Hahn. I am a major Kathryn Hahn fan. I have liked her in everything she does. Whether she's in Step Brothers, I loved her in Parks and Rec. I love her in this woman can do anything. Like, seriously, she's just so talented and so funny. And she plays a lot bigger of a role in this WandaVision show than I was expecting her to be. She plays a much bigger role than I thought she would. I mean, obviously not as big as Wanda or Vision, but she plays quite a significant role. And I get the feeling from the first couple of episodes that she's probably going to continue to play a very major role in this. And Joseph Enriquez in the live chat was saying he loved her in Bad Moms. She was great in Bad Moms. She was so good in Bad Moms. I just love this lady. I think she's incredible. Like I said, I think she can do anything. So I really, really loved her touching this. Again, we'll go in the spoiler discussion later today into the little things, who was that beekeeper? We're going to get into those types of things in the spoiler discussion a little bit later on. But yeah, those are my general thoughts. And it seems like, generally speaking, people are enjoying it so far. But a lot of people are also a little bit still like, okay, I'm enjoying it. This is fun, but where's this going to go? And I think that's the big question. I think that's the big question for a lot of people. So I'm really excited about talking about it more. Come on back at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when we do. And that's kind of where we're at with WandaVision. All right, guys, listen. For the rest of the afternoon here, or morning in my case, we're just going to have a casual kickback film fan discussion, TV, streaming, whatever it is you guys want to talk about by taking your live questions. So let's get on over and start doing that right now. And we are going to start off by taking one from Javier Olivia, who writes, "Hey, John, let's play. In 2014, Al Pacino loved Guardians of the Galaxy." I remember that. Al Pacino loved Guardians of the Galaxy and talked with Marvel. What would your reaction be if he is Mephisto in WandaVision? Paul Bettany said, "I get to work with an actor I've been waiting forever who is just unbelievable." Hughes is from Spain. I doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, Paul Bettany could have been talking about anybody. He could have been talking about Olsen. He could have been talking about Han. He could have been talking about a lot of people. I mean, so just because an actor says, "I get to work with somebody I've always wanted to work with," doesn't necessarily mean it's Al Pacino. But you're right. I remember, I think it was still the AMC days when we covered that story when Al Pacino was talking about how much he loved it, and he wouldn't mind doing something like that, right? That was really cool. So I don't know, anything's possible. Like, look, I wouldn't put it past Kevin Feige to pull a real ace out of his sleeve for the very first MCU Disney Plus series, the very first MCU series of any kind.
John, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was MCU.
Not really. But I mean, so it was technically, I suppose, but it wasn't really. This is, I wouldn't put it by Feige to pull an ace out of his sleeve and to say, and what bigger ace would there be? This is good. And Al Pacino. I mean, Al Pacino in something like this, that would be pretty huge. I'm going to guess that's not happening. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's something we should keep our eyes on. Thanks for sending that in, Javier. All right, next up, Ted writes, "Over under 5%. John finally has the balls to approach Weird Al if they were ever in the same room together again." It's funny. I've got some Hot Toys and some Funko Pops behind me. I have 2 different Weird Al Yankovic Funko Pops. I'm a massive Weird Al fan. Like, it's almost irrational. I'm a big Weird Al fan. So what Ted is referring to, in case you don't know, like, I go to a lot of events and things like that, and so I run into a lot of the whatever the celebs, and I have no problem walking right up to somebody and talking to them, just saying, "Hey, Harrison Ford, great to meet you," or "Hey, Anna Faris, nice to meet." Like, I've even walked up and introduced myself to George Lucas. That's fine. I'm never nervous about that. Except for Weird Al Yankovic. I have been in the same room with Weird Al multiple times, including coming out of a premiere and walking to an after party and literally standing on the step behind him on the escalator going up to the after party while my wife is jabbing me saying, "This is your chance. Say hi to Weird Al." I'm like, I can't say hi to Weird Al. I don't know why. He's the one guy I can't go up and talk to. I don't know why. I get all nervous around Weird Al. I have no explanation for that. It's a completely idiotic thing, but it is what it is. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Dakota, who writes, "Do you think we will ever see Green Goblin / Norman Osborn in the MCU? Yes. Depending on if Sony and Marvel stretch out their deal, which I believe they will. I really was hoping that Oscorp was the one who purchased Avengers Tower, but now it seems that's going to be the Baxter Building. Just want to see the Green Goblin again soon." I wouldn't count on soon, but again, I think the partnership between Marvel, Disney, and Sony has been very good since they started their partnership with the Spider-Man character. I think the results have been great. I think the 2 Spider-Man movies have been a lot of fun. It's a win-win for everybody. The fans are happy. People are making money, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think that will continue. And as it continues, if you do continue with Spider-Man, you can only go so long without having Green Goblin. So, yes, I do anticipate that we will see a Green Goblin sooner or later. Probably, and by sooner, I don't mean in the next year, because I don't think he's going to pop up at all in Spider-Man 3, although that's a possibility. Who knows? So it's probably going to be in a couple of years. I think we will in a couple of years. Again, who knows? But I just don't see how you go too long without bringing in Green Goblin. It seems like an absolute necessity. All right, next up. John Campea is John Cena writes, "Hey, John. Was wondering if the first 9 Sons of Anarchy spinoff," I remember when they were going to do that. "If the first 9 Sons of Anarchy spinoff was still going to happen. I don't think it is. I think I heard it got scrapped. At any rate, haven't heard anything since it was rumored a while ago. I know a lot of people didn't like Clay, but I miss Ron Perlman in that show. Loved his performance in Sons." Well, no, everybody loved Clay. Some people loved to hate him because that's what you were supposed to do with the character. Ron Perlman, listen, Ron has done a lot of good things. To me, when he hangs him up and retires, when I look back on the career of Ron Perlman, I will just think him as Clay in Sons of Anarchy. I think that was his best role. I think he was amazing in it. And for those of you who don't know, they were supposed to be they had said a couple of years ago that after Sons of Anarchy was done, they were going to do a spin-off series called The Original 9. Which was a prequel series about the first 9 founding members of the Sons of Anarchy. So you'd have young Clay, you'd have a young Jax's dad, Piney, I think a younger Piney was going to be in there too. So it was going to be the original 9. But I believe those plans got scrapped fairly quickly. I hope I'm wrong. But from what I understand, I think the show is shelved. If you guys know of anything different, do email me. I think they're working on Mayans is on right now, and Mayans is really good. And I believe they have another spin-off series they're planning, but I don't think it's the original 9. So if you guys know any different, please email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com and let me know if with some links if you guys know anything different. But I do think it's been canceled. All right, next up, we have Sergeant Ward writes, "Hey, John. You might want to get over your unnatural hate of Netflix movies." Listen, I don't hate Netflix movies. I'm just telling you, Netflix has put out mostly crappy stuff. That's all. My favorite film of 2020 is a Netflix film. Trial of the Chicago 7 is my favorite movie of 2020. So I don't like or dislike a Netflix film before I watch it. It's just that 9 times out of 10, Netflix movies suck. Sorry, they just do. Anyway, because they just announced on their Film Club channel they're releasing a movie every week for 2021. I'm just saying a lot of good, but since you have bias, oh well. No, I don't have bias. This is the thing. Look, I'm going to be blunt here. It is the sign of a weak mind when you try to make excuses for why somebody else doesn't think the same way you do. I have no bias against Netflix. I've been a Netflix subscriber far longer than you have. When they put, like, I loved Old Guard. Trial of Chicago 7 is my favorite movie of 2020. I have no bias when it comes, and I love that they do TV series brilliantly. I love them. And Rory sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Rory. I love, like, when they put out good stuff, but the reality is 9 times out of 10, their movies completely suck. They just do. You know, on yesterday's show, we even took some time and ran down this whole list of, like, all the 2020 movies that came out. And for every good one, like for every Trial of Chicago 7, there's like 7, 8, or 9 completely horrible ones. It just is what it is. So anyway, it just is what it is. But yes, they're going to be putting out a lot of movies, but guess what? They put out tons of movies every year. And unlike at the Disney investor meeting, you guys remember Bob Iger got on stage and said quality over quantity. Netflix seems to have the opposite philosophy, quantity over quality. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, for every one Beasts of No Nation, which is great, they have 15 terrible movies. For every one Old Guard, they have 10 more terrible movies. For every one Trial of the Chicago 7, they have 6, 7, 8, 9 terrible movies. Unlike, say, Pixar, that has a complete opposite ratio. For every one bad film Pixar does, they have 11 or 12 amazing ones. That's the type of ratio you want to have. So no, just because I watch each one, and then evaluate each one on its own merits and come to the conclusion that most of them, that doesn't mean bias. So get out of here with that. Anyway, next up. Sergeant Ward also writes, I know I'm picking with the Netflix hatred. I'm just saying that if you have this expectation from past experiences, you might miss on the potentially great movies and hidden gems. P.S. Extraction is a B-level actioner. What did you expect, Shakespeare? No, I just expect a good movie. There's a lot of good actioneer films that are still solid movies. So this little excuse of, I hate it when people make excuses for bad movies. When they say, well, what did you expect? I expected a good movie. I didn't expect it to be Shakespeare, but I expected a good, solid movie with intelligent characters, intelligent story, all that kind of stuff. And Extraction wasn't that. Great action movie. The action's great, but listen, I don't miss out on Netflix movies. I mean, I don't have time to watch all of them, but I do watch the majority of the Netflix movies that come out. Part of the problem with Netflix is that they do a totally, and this is true on their TV series side and on their movie side. One of the big problems with Netflix is that they do a horrible job promoting their own material. So a lot of times something will come out on Netflix and it'll just fly under everybody's radar because Netflix never let anybody know about it. And that's Netflix's fault. That's not the fault of the show or the movie. That's a Netflix marketing problem. So that happens sometimes. But no, I check them out and I watch them and then I evaluate them. It's just, I'm telling you, my experience has been, after watching many Netflix movies, is that they have about a 10-to-1 horrible movie to good movie ratio. Unlike their TV side, which is usually like, maybe 2 or 3 questionable ones for every 10, 11, or 12 really good ones. And that's always been amazing to me. How can you be so good at doing series and then be so bad at your original films? Again, I think it has to do with that thing. They care more about quantity than they do about quality when it comes to their movie. They seem just like the example. They're going to put out 50, 60, 70 movies this year. You think they had high quality control over that many films? No. I have a feeling we're going to get 5, 6, or 7 really good original Netflix movies this year. And about 60 really bad ones. Hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. I want to love every movie I sit down to watch. Every time I sit down to watch a movie, I want to love it. Because who wants to waste their time? It's just that Netflix original films constantly disappoint with the odd silver lining, like An Old Guard, like Beasts of No Nation, like Trial of the Chicago 7, like The Irishman. Every once in a while, the end of Shawshank Redemption, when Andy Dufresne had to go, what was it, 300 yards? 300 yards of shit and filth. Sometimes to get to those really good Netflix movies, you got to crawl through that sewer of shit and filth, 10 movies worth of them to get to the one really good one. But here's hoping they start to turn that ratio around for all of our sakes. All right, next up. Sargent also writes, Netflix is past the bad movies like Kissing Booth ending this year. Since they're giving great filmmakers blank checks, they have produced a lot of interesting movies in the past. Every studio has bad movies. I'm a theater guy, but 2021 looks great. Yeah, they have produced good movies. The problem is, for every one good movie they produce 8 to 12 terrible ones. And it's the ratio. Like you can say, man, you know what? The New York Jets won 2 games this year. I think it was 2 games, right? Wasn't it 2 games that they won? I think it was 2. Anyway, the New York Jets won 2 games this year. Yeah, but they lost like 14. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But they lost like 14 games. That's great. Netflix does have the odd good movie. And I talk about those movies, and I love those movies. The problem is they have a terrible, terrible ratio. Anyway, we're going to skip over that. We've talked about Netflix enough. Sorry about that, Sergeant, but we've talked about Netflix enough. All right, next up. Dr. Film writes, hey, John, what are your opinions on Doug Walker / Nostalgia Critic on YouTube channel? Just so you guys know, I do not talk about other YouTubers on my channel. I will let bottom feeding other people who like to talk about other YouTube channels. That is not what I do here. By the way, me saying that is not to imply in some way that I don't like Doug Walker. Don't take that. I just I don't talk about other YouTubers on this. I think that is bottom of the barrel kind of content. I don't believe in talking about other YouTubers. So I'm not here to give thoughts on other YouTubers. But I appreciate you asking. I know you probably are asking out of the deepest place of respect for Doug. I understand that, but I don't talk about other YouTubers here. All right, thanks for that. All right, Bob writes, as Baxter, Kirkdoffer sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you so much, Baxter. I appreciate that. Next up, Bob writes, hope you don't mind a game of what if, given the seismic cliffhanger of Infinity War. It wasn't really, Infinity War didn't have a cliffhanger. That's the thing. Anyway, what do you think Disney would have done with Endgame had those 2 films been on the release schedule just 1 year later? Endgame fell on May 2020. Yeah, that's a discussion we've had a couple of times. But first of all, let me touch on that one thing. Infinity War did not end on a cliffhanger. It didn't. Infinity War, and Feige has talked about this. Infinity War is a complete movie. The only difference of the completed movie in the form of Infinity War as opposed to a lot of other traditional movies is that Infinity War clearly ends just with the bad guy winning. There was no cliffhanger. You know, a cliffhanger is, okay, now the good guy's on the field of battle and the bad guy's on the field of battle and they're about to fight, and then the credits roll. Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger is Lord of the Rings with Frodo and Samwise saying, well, there's Mordor. Yep, there it is. We got to get this ring there. Okay, let's get to Mordor. Credits roll, right? That's a cliffhanger. The Infinity War was not a cliffhanger. The movie had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it ended, and the bad guy won. The end. Now, then they did another movie later that says, hey, what happens after that movie? Well, 5 years later, something else happens, but it was a complete movie. But your point is taken because, you know, Infinity War and Endgame, they go together. And a lot of the discussion, especially in the early days of the pandemic, was, oh my God, it's a good thing they put out Endgame when they did. Because can you imagine if we're watching Infinity War knowing that Endgame is coming? We watch Infinity War and like, okay, we're going to watch it in a year. And then the pandemic strikes. It's like, okay, it's been pushed off a couple months. Oh, crap. Okay, well, it's just a couple months. All right, well, it's been moved from, that a few more months. Oh, crap, now another few months. Okay, now it's pushed off an entire year. It's like, and we would have been like, oh, man, it would have been. Look, ultimately, at the end of the day, eventually Endgame would have come out and we would have watched it and it all would be well. But it would have made for an excruciating year for people who were really looking forward to watching Endgame after watching Infinity War. It would have been an excruciating year. Now, when it's all said and done, it really wouldn't have mattered all that much. We still would have watched it. It just, watched it when we wanted to, but it would have made for an excruciating year. All right. Thanks for that, Bob. Next up, King Artros of Monteval writes, hey, and John. Who else and John? All right. Hey, and John, I was wondering if it was time to explore a big screen film that features both Superman and Supergirl. The CW explored the relationship somewhat, but they made it seem like Superman was second fiddle. Is there more to explore in the Elf family? I mean, you could. I mean, theoretically speaking, we talk about this all the time. You can take any concept. If you write an excellent script around any concept, you can make a good movie. Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone, for example. The thing is, I am not a big fan of derivative characters. Generally speaking, I don't get a big kick out of derivative characters. And that's why, look, am I interested in the She-Hulk show? Sure. But am I super excited about She-Hulk? Well, She-Hulk's a derivative character off the Hulk. So not terribly. That doesn't mean the show won't be amazing. But I've got some friends of mine that are like psychotic She-Hulk fans. Like just She-Hulk is life. And I've never really got that with derivative Superboy. Again, I have some friends that just love Superboy. To me, it's a derivative character of Superman. I'm not really into derivative characters. And I'm not really into Supergirl all that much, to be honest with you. I gave the show a shot and the show was crap. But I personally don't see... But I can only speak for myself, but I have never sensed a real hunger amongst the film fans to see a Superman and Supergirl movie. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm just talking from my own personal experience. I can only speak from that place of my own personal experience. So I personally wouldn't be all that interested in it. And I don't think a lot of film fans would be interested in that. But maybe, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong about that. It's possible. Never know. They're always looking for new things to do. And again, any concept can work if you write it correctly. If you make a movie about this camera lens cap or this camera lens. Why am I forgetting the name of it? Anyway, this plastic camera lens attache thing. You can make a great movie about that camera plastic lens thingy if you execute right. So Superman, Supergirl, why not? I'd just be lying to you if I told you it would excite me. All right. Thanks for that, King Artros. All right. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, by any chance, have you seen The Undoing on HBO Max? I have not, and I want to. I want to very much. My wife and I decided to tune into it, and man, it doesn't disappoint, at least in our opinions. It was a classic whodunit type of show, and has you guessing whodunit until the last episode. So hold on a second. Undoing. Because the first person that I knew that was watching it was Erin Cummings, who has, been on my show a lot. Her and her husband, Tom, were watching it, and they were really liking it. And then Anne and Kaori, my wife Ann and our friend Corey, then they started watching and they really liked it. Now, this is the one that's got Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. And I'm a big Hugh Grant fan, and I'm a big Nicole Kidman fan, and I love whodunit. So I am very, very much into watching this. I just haven't had the chance yet myself. But everybody else I've talked to who has seen it, which admittedly hasn't been a lot of people, but everybody else who I've talked to has seen it has also really liked it, Russell. So I'm looking forward to getting into that one. All right. And for those of you who don't know which one we're talking, this is the one we're kind of talking about here. The Undoing. I really don't know much about it, except I was told it's a mystery. Okay. I'm listening. I'm interested if it's a mystery. And it's got Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. I mean, it's kind of good enough for me. I'm in. So yeah, I would like to see it. All right, next up. That was Russell Amador. Next one up is Mark Hanson, who writes, "Hey guys, The Expanse is so damn good, dude. I'm even thinking this season is the best one yet. I am loving The Expanse. The scenes between Naomi and Philip are so emotional. That's a mother and son duo, just so you know. Well, everything with Naomi is great. What a terrific actress. Great cast, characters, compelling storyline, and writing. Best science fiction since Battlestar Galactica." You know what? I have a hard time disagreeing with you on that. Now, I like to... I want to guard, because just like any fan, because we all do this, myself included, we tend to take the newest thing we've seen and rank it too high on all-time lists. Like, so when you see some new great science fiction, you're like, oh my God, this is like one of the greatest science fiction things of all time. And then when you calm down, you go, well, okay, maybe not of all time, but it's good. But honestly, now that I've been watching this show for a couple of years, I don't know that there's been better science fiction television, at least, pure written science fiction television since Battlestar Galactica. I think you might be right about that. It's really good. It's really, really good. Oh, and Dean Dillon sends in a super chat badge on the live chat. Thank you so much for that, Dean. It's really, really good. And so I am digging. I just watched the latest episode yesterday. It's like, oh, and then it's a countdown to the next one. And didn't they just say that next season is going to be the final season? Broke my heart to hear that a little bit, but it has been so good. All right, next up, Emery writes, Bojack Horseman's first episode is its worst, but the rest of the show is a masterpiece. The creator to this day regrets how the pilot draws less attention to the show. I myself almost didn't continue the show because of it, but I'm glad I did. Yeah, I've heard a number of people really like that. I have never really watched the show myself. It just doesn't look like something that appeals to me. Then again, the Harley Quinn animated show didn't look like something that appealed to me either, and I love it. So I've never got around to it, but I keep hearing good things about it, Emery. You are certainly not alone in that. I've heard really, really good things about it. All right, next up. The Wakandan Forever writes, "It's going to be interesting how future filmmakers portray the recent events that are unfolding on a daily basis. The Birth of a Nation 1915 was brought up on the show recently, a film that depicts the racism of the time, 2021, and hate on full display." Yeah, again, I'm not going to get into anything political. We keep politics out of this show, not because I don't think politics are important. They are very important, but here, this is our oasis from talking about that stuff. But I will say this. That it is absolutely fascinating to think about how will filmmakers and storytellers reflect back on this era that we're in, right? This immediate era, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. That is going to be interesting. How they should or should not do that, I will leave that for discussions outside of this channel, but I agree, that will be interesting. Wakanda Forever also writes, "Well, that got heavy really fast. Baby Yoda." I'm not quite sure what that's a reference to. Other than Baby Yoda, I'm not quite sure what that's a reference to. Let's see. Scott Brown writes, "I have to recommend, especially to Rob, Gangs of London on AMC Plus. I'm not familiar with that. It is absolutely amazing. All the episodes are written, directed by Gareth Evans." Oh, now I know the one you're talking about. Okay. Who did The Raid and The Raid 2 and has some of the best. By the way, there was a period of time when Evans was going to do an Expendables movie too. He was going to do an Expendables movie. Wait a second. Or am I thinking of, Gareth Evans. I was pretty sure he was going to be doing a Expendables movie. Yeah. He was going to do an Expendables movie for a while. Anyway, who did The Raid 2, some of the best action cinematography I've ever seen. Just mind-blowing. Yeah, The Raid and The Raid 2. Now, here's an interesting question. I happen to know the producer of The Raid and The Raid 2. Actually, I've known, 25 years. I've known the producer for The Raid and The Raid 2 for like 25 years. Wow. Yeah, I should get a hold of him. Anyway, I would be very interested to know, because usually the director of a film is not the fight choreographer. But when the choreography, now still the director is responsible for everything, right? They greenlight everything. That includes the camera angles, the costume designing, the makeup. They have to give their approval to everything and also make sure that the people in charge of those departments get what the director has a vision of. But most of the time, the director of a film is not actually doing the actual fight choreography. That's usually somebody else. But we often give credit to that director. Still, the director has to have a good eye. The director has to have a really good eye for what they want in their action. Doesn't matter. You can have the greatest fight choreographer in the world. If the director doesn't have the eye for it, you're gonna lose out on it. But yeah. So the Gangs of London. I will keep my eyes open for that, Scott. Thanks for putting that up on the radar. All right. An anonymous viewer writes, "A good death is its own reward. Easy to say for the nigh indestructible woman fighting against a common dude." Was that Man of Steel? Hold a second. I'm pretty sure that was her. Death is its own reward. Let's see. I think that was from Man of Steel. That sounds like it's her line from Man of Steel. Yeah, it is. It's Feora in Man of Steel. Good death is, yeah, it's big talk for a Kryptonian who's invulnerable to everything. Big talk, lady. Boy, Freya was so good. Like, first of all, everything about Man of Steel is so good. You guys know I'm a big Man of Steel guy. Everything about Man of Steel is so good, but you could have done a spin-off movie of this girl, and I totally would have watched it. Loyal, fierce, ideological, all that kind of stuff. Psychopathic, genocidal maniac, yes, but I totally would have watched. I totally would have watched this. I totally would have watched a standalone movie, spinoff movie of her. Absolutely, I would have. All right, next up. Anonymous viewer writes, one of two or three. "Hey, John, how are you today? I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. Did you recently see that Netflix released their 2021 slate for movies this year?" Yeah, we were just talking about it. They say they will have over 70 movies this year, and maybe there will have a movie every week. That is all good and all. Especially, I guess Anonymous is Casey McNatt, especially when we won't be able to make it to the movies for who knows when. And I'm actually looking forward to a few of those movies, like Red Notice. Well, of course, that's got like Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Army of the Dead, Don't Look Up. I'm very excited about Army of the Dead, actually. Don't Look Up. However, that being said, I kind of hope that Netflix has better movies than the recent movies Netflix has released. Yeah, they've got it definitely some high profile big stars. The problem is, like even the ones they do with the high profile big stars sometimes don't work out. Like, you guys know, one of my favorite guys in Hollywood is Ryan Reynolds. Like, Ryan Reynolds is a guy to me, can do drama, comedy, action. He's got like one of the best gigs going right now. I think he's crazy talented and of course a good Canadian kid. So, and I actually kind of like Michael Bay. I know he's made a lot of crappy films, but people forget he's also made some really, really good movies. Anyway, so I was looking forward to Six Underground. That looked great. A Michael Bay action film. Michael Bay does some great action with Ryan Reynolds. I was so excited for that movie. And it was crap. It was crap. Now, Art and Design in the live chat is saying Ryan Reynolds can do drama. Dude, go and see his movie Buried. He should have been honest. No hyperbole here. Ryan Reynolds literally should have been nominated for an Academy Award for Buried. So yes, I mean, he can, and he's done a couple of others too. He can definitely do drama. Anyway, that aside. Yeah, I mean, like Six Underground, should have been a winner. Should have easily been a winner. It was pretty bad. And unfortunately, like we were talking about earlier with Netflix and their original films, I mean, they can turn out some really good ones, like Irishman, Trial of the Chicago 7, again, Beasts of No Nation. I mean, they can put them out. The problem is their good film to horrible film ratio is very, very bad. And that's great that they're going to have like 70 movies this year. But what that tells me instantly is probably like if math has anything to do with it and we break up the ratio of their previous track record of good films to terrible films ratio, I'm expecting like 60 of them are going to be crap. And that's great that maybe we'll get 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 great ones, maybe. But if history is any indicator, listen, you can't tell me you have a high threshold for quality control on your movies when you're putting out 70 movies in a year. You can't, there's no quality control there. It's just like, you've got a movie? Great. We'll put it on Netflix original. Great. What is it? It's not even finished and it doesn't have credits yet. And the camera's out of focus most of the time. No problem. Still good enough to be a Netflix movie. Let's throw it on there. We're only at 58 original movies right now. We want 70. Quick, throw them in there. So, I mean, that's the problem. So we're going to have to wade through a whole bunch of crap to get to Red Notice. And by the way, if Six Underground is any indication, just because Red Notice has The Rock and Ryan Reynolds, that doesn't mean it's going to be good. I'm hoping it's good. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I have high hopes for Army of the Dead and a number of them, but with Netflix, you never know. You never know. Anyway, thanks for that, Casey. Next up, Sergeant Ward writes, a non-Netflix question. Amazing. Sergeant Ward writes, I heard that Ridley Scott's Napoleon project with Joaquin Phoenix is going to Apple, and that got me thinking, is new Scorsese movie going to straight to Apple, or will it have a theatrical release funded by Apple? Asking because I want to see a big screen Napoleon. From what I understand, that's a really good question. From what I understand, it is just going to be a straight to Apple Plus thing, which is interesting because, again, if I understand and remember it properly, something of the Flower Moon, the other Marty Scorsese movie that he's doing with Leo DiCaprio. If I remember that right, which is being financed by Apple, it will get its full theatrical release first and then later be an exclusive to Apple TV Plus. So it'll get a full theatrical thing first, have a full theatrical window, if movie theaters still exist, and then later it'll go on Apple TV Plus as a streaming exclusive. But my understanding of this Napoleon project is that it's going to be straight to Apple TV Plus. Now, I could be wrong about that. And Quirky Joe, Killers of the Flower Moon. Something of the Flower Moon. Something Ant-Man. Yes, so Killers of the Flower Moon is going to get a full theatrical and then go to Apple TV Plus, 3 months later. But if I'm understanding it right, and again, I could be wrong about this, I believe this Napoleon project is going to go straight to Apple TV Plus. I believe. So we'll see about that. Anyway, next up, my breakdancing partner writes, Mr. Steele here. 20 months since Endgame, and tonight the MCU is back, ready for the flurry of speculative and Easter egg videos everywhere. When 22 said windmills in Seoul, I thought of you instantly. The windmill is a breakdancing move, for those you don't know. Over under 40%, Rob says verisimilitude after WandaVision tonight. Well, I mean, I can be going to lunch with Rob, and I'll give you over 40% that he'll say verisimilitude at some point in the conversation. Verisimilitude is kind of Rob's word. That's his word. So I will go over 40%. Over 40% that he will get into verisimilitude. All right, thanks for that, breakdancing partner. Next up, Dr. Film writes, one of two. Hey, John. Hey there, Dr. Phil. I always wonder... Oh, sorry, my Google is talking to me. Hey, John, I always wondered if classic filmmakers were still alive, what would they do with today's resources? Like with Alfred Hitchcock says he hated the process of shooting movies. Would that mean he would have loved the volume set? And if filmmakers like Orson Welles and Stanley Kubrick would team up with streaming services like Netflix to make project with freedom and financing that traditional movie studios wouldn't do? If, like them, filmmakers were here today, what do you think? It would vary from filmmaker to filmmaker. There would be no one standard answer. Like, for instance, Like Alfred Hitchcock hated the process of filmmaking. Guess what? There's a lot of filmmakers today that don't like the process of filmmaking. James Gunn, actually, when I was the one interview I did with him, he was saying that he loves pre-production and he loves post-production. It's the actual production. It's the actual shooting the movie that he really doesn't like. That's the part of the movie making process he doesn't like. He loves making movies. He loves the build up to shooting. He loves all the post-production part of shooting. He just doesn't like the actual part where you actually have to go out there on set and be away for months at a time and shooting movies. So, and that's a guy who does work today with all of the tools and the bells and the whistles. So it will vary from individual filmmaker to individual filmmaker. Obviously, if you could do a Bill and Ted time traveling telephone booth and go back in time and pull like some of these great filmmakers from past eras to today and then say, hey, you're going to make a movie today, but you have these tools available to you now. I'm sure they'd be like kids in candy stores. They'd be like, ah. I'm sure some of them would be like George Lucas too, with Phantom Menace, and just put a whole lot of CG and things just because they can. But again, I think it would vary from filmmaker to filmmaker. Yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. All right, thanks for that, Dr. Phil. Next up, Wakanda Forever writes, WandaVision premiering on Disney Plus. I'm sure you will have a spoiler discussion. Hopefully I will today at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Looks pretty wild. Hoping it is another hit. It will be great or a disaster. I remember Guardians of the Galaxy. That worked out. I don't bet against Marvel. Yeah, it's not wise to bet against Marvel. It's not good to be in the business of betting against Marvel. That said, let's not pretend Marvel has a perfect track record. We do live in a world where Iron Man 2 exists. We do live in a world with Thor: The Dark World. We do live in a world with, granted, it was different people, but we do live in a world where we had the immortal Iron Fist. We do live in a world where we had the second season of Luke Cage. Let's not pretend Marvel is perfect, but again, it's that win to loss ratio. They have a really big, disproportionately big wins to losses ratio. So it's good to bet on their behalf. So I'm going to be really interesting to talk to everybody a little bit later in the open spoiler thing to hear what everybody thought about it. All right, thanks for that, Wakandan. Next up, the Garden Variety Vagabond writes, hey, John and Rob, Rob's not here today. A recommendation for lovers of the Blackadder show, both Jeeves and Wooster, and a bit of Fry and Laurie. Bit of Fry and Laurie are amazing. I am not really familiar with any of those. I'm familiar with Blackadder. I'm not familiar with those other ones. Have you all watched these Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie? Oh, that sounds like a good combination. Comedy shows. What are your thoughts on them? I'm not even familiar with them. I'm not familiar with those in the least. It sounds, those two working together on something, that sounds like gold to me, Garden Variety Vagabond. That sounds like absolute gold to me, but I'm not familiar with Jeeves and Wooster and a bit of Fry. A bit of Fry and Laurie. Yeah, I'm not familiar with them. I'm going to have to go look those up. Can you do me a favor? Not that I mean to, I'm not trying to give you homework or anything, Garden, but can you do me a favor? Could you send me a couple of links just to some info pages on those shows? Maybe someplace where there's some clips. Just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. I would be very grateful for that. And if any of you guys have watched any of those shows, please jump into the live chat and tell Garden Variety you've seen those too. All right, next up. One of our Patreon supporters, Alexander Kent. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter, Alexander. One of two. This is a question I had to get your thoughts on. Apologies if this question comes across as controversial. My question is, with all the current violent events of last year and already this year, do you think the Punisher character is endangered? That's one of two. Here's two of two. We'll get to Matt's question in a second. The Punisher is one of my favorite characters. I love the War Journal comic run, enjoyed all the movies, and will soon binge watch the Netflix show. I'm late. Sorry. I really like the Punisher Netflix series. I really, really do. His dialogue, personal baggage, and of course, his relation to Law and Order. Your thoughts. So, yeah, I don't want to get into it too much. I will just say this. For those of you who may not have heard, there has been a story going around. Hold on a second. there's been a story going around of some people wanting to have the Punisher logo retired. Some people want to see the Punisher logo retired. And the reason they want to see the Punisher logo retired is because certain other people have used the logo. Like certain violent people have used the logo for themselves, right? So there's been some calls for people asking Marvel to retire the Punisher logo because some other people have hijacked their logo. I find that silly. I find that, yeah, like I said, me personally, I find that very silly. And here's the reason why I find it silly. Is because just because a moron copies something you do, that doesn't mean you should stop doing what you do. You know what I mean? Yes, there are some major morons out there who've tried to usurp the Punisher logo for their own ends and their own means. Yes, but when we look at some of the violence that has broken out lately, a lot of people have been using the American flag. Actually, I was just watching a video clip on the news this morning when the Capitol riots happened. Literally, a couple of people using American flags to hit police officers with, using American flags. And I saw a lot more people carrying American flags than I saw wearing the Punisher badge. Are we going to ban the American flag? No. Just because somebody else tries to copy and usurp and hijack one of your symbols and things, I don't think that puts the onus then on the owner of that thing to retire it. I don't think it does. Again, I think there are some very good, productive discussions to have around that. And you know what? Maybe my mind could be changed. I'm not going to die on that hill. Maybe my mind could be changed. But my initial thought when I started hearing about some people saying that they should retire the Punisher logo was, why should Marvel stop doing what they're doing just because some inbred cousin humping asshole somewhere decided to misuse that logo for their own purposes? You know, okay, here's a question. Here's a question. If you know, a bunch of those people who are you know, mobbing the Capitol, if they were wearing Mickey Mouse logos, should Disney retire Mickey Mouse? I don't know. It seems silly to me, but look, again, I'm admitting that maybe there are nuances to this conversation that I'm not taking into consideration. That is a possibility. And maybe I could have my mind changed. I don't feel super strongly about it. I'm just telling you that my first initial reaction, my first initial gut feeling when I heard that there were some, and by the way, it's a very, very small group of people that were asking for it. People are saying like, oh, all these people are asking for Punisher logo to be. No, it wasn't. It's actually a very, very small group of people. But all I can tell you is that my first reaction when hearing that there were some people who thought maybe Marvel should retire the Punisher logo because other people hijacked it, my initial thought is that's actually kind of a silly thought. If the people who were raiding the Capitol were wearing, I don't know, Dallas Cowboy hats, should the Dallas Cowboys get rid of their, you know, the blue star logo? Obviously not. So I don't think so. But anyway, again, I'm not going to pretend like I have super strong feelings about it. I don't. Maybe I'm missing some nuances. I'm just telling you what my initial feelings were. So that's that. All right. Thanks for that, Alexander. Next up, Matt Stockberger writes, How awesome would it be if they did a Disney Plus limited series of Captain America returning the Infinity Stones? 6 stones, 6 episodes, finally faces off against Red Skull in the last episode. Call it Mission Through the Multiverse or some junk like that. Listen, Matt, many people, I remember after Endgame came out, a lot of people were talking about the notion of Cap going back, or having something that shows Cap going back to, return all those stones, right? A lot of people talked about that. I myself personally, I don't like the idea. I don't like the idea personally. And this is just an image I pull. There's no signature on the image. I don't know where this image comes from, but it's just online. There we go. So, to me, I don't know. I have no interest in watching a Cap thing where I already know the outcome of each and every scenario. I mean, you could have one episode where he has to return the one stone, then another episode where he has to return another stone, but we already literally know the outcome of every single one of those episodes. It's not like there's one element that we're aware of the outcome and then a million things we don't know. It's like we literally know how that works out. We literally know how that one works out, and we know how that one works out, and we know how that one works out. And ultimately, we also know he ends up re-falling in love with Peggy again, deciding to stay back there in time and not return. We know all that. So really, what I would be interested in is a YouTube video. I would be interested in Marvel making a 7-minute mini YouTube video of the confrontation between Red Skull and now, or whatever name he goes by now, and Captain Steve Rogers. I'd be interested in that 7-minute YouTube video that Marvel could take and put up on Disney Plus or put up on YouTube. I'd be very interested in that one thing. But me personally, I don't have a lot of interest in something that I already know every single outcome of every single episode, and even then the overall story arc of him falling in love with Peggy and staying in the past again. I would personally rather move forward. So I would personally that, but you are not alone, man. There are many people, Matt, who are saying they would like to see that series. Just because I don't have a lot of interest in it doesn't mean you're in the minority. You might be in the majority, as a matter of fact. So hang on to that. Maybe you never know maybe that could be something that's on tap. But since you're asking me, I'll tell you, it doesn't really interest me terribly much. And that's why. But you may find there's a lot of people who agree with you, man. All right, next up. Ethan Hunt writes, "Hey, John, I was happy to put Jade City on your radar. You know what? I got the book. I was happy to put Jade City on your radar about 3 weeks ago. I've been practically evangelizing it ever since I read it. When you check it out, let me. I don't have my phone here. I was gonna hold my phone. So I got it on my Audible. I got it on Audible. Now, unfortunately, shortly after I got it on Audible, I forgot that they were dropping the new High Republic Star Wars novels. And so I got those and I kind of bumped Jade City down, but I did get it. And I will let you know my thoughts once I get around to it. So thanks for putting that on my radar again. All right, next up. Matt Schockenberg writes, I think Evans could cameo in Secret Invasion as a Skull posing as Steve Rogers. I don't think Chris Evans would come back to play a fake Steve Rogers. I don't know Chris Evans personally. I don't have him on my speed dial. So I don't know for sure, but I don't see why he would agree to come back to play a fake Captain America. Anyway, I think Evans could cameo in Secret Invasion as a Skrull posing as Steve Rogers. They haven't started filming yet. I think a Deadpool 3 cameo would be amazing. Old man Cap sitting on a bench with Deadpool talking about time travel stories. Again, maybe better suited for a special little thing on Disney Plus or YouTube, but I would watch the hell out of that. You give me a 5-minute video as a special feature on Disney Plus or YouTube of old man Steve Rogers, constantly saying language to Deadpool, sitting on a park bench talking about all the ridiculous things in the world. Deadpool constantly making fun of him. I think that I would watch the hell out of that. Maybe not an entire series, but I would watch the hell out of that, Matt. Absolutely, I would. All right, next up. Ethan Hunt writes, the reason the Knights of Ren attacked Kylo, even though they had no way of knowing he switched sides, is simple. He wasn't wearing his mask, so they thought Matt the radar technician was snooping around where he shouldn't, so they had to teach him his lesson. Listen, I am telling you what, the Matt the radar technician is one of my absolute all-time favorite SNL sketches. If you guys have never seen it, and I'm sure most of you have, if you have not, you absolutely must at some point today, go on YouTube, search SNL Matt the radar technician. And the basic sketch is, it's, you know that show Undercover Boss? There's a real show called Undercover Boss where like the owner or the big boss of a company puts on a disguise to go in and work at his own company to see how the people who work in his company are actually treated and how they actually feel about working there and their actual real thoughts. And they don't know they're talking to their boss. They don't know they're talking to the owner of the company. So SNL does this sketch where it's Star Wars, The Empire, Undercover Boss, where Kylo Ren disguises himself as, I'm Matt, I'm a radar technician. It is seriously one of the funniest things I've ever done. I'm not going to say it's a top 10 Saturday Night Live skit, but it's in the top 100. Out of the tens of thousands, it's in the top 100. It's so funny. If you've not seen the Matt the Technician thing, absolutely do go and watch it. I'm pretty sure that guy, I got something to tell you guys. I'm Kylo Ren. No, the best thing is, if you haven't seen it, you won't know what I'm talking about. When he opens the card, sorry for killing your son. Just, you got to watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. I won't even blame you if you stop watching this show so you can go watch it now. I wouldn't even blame you. All right. That was Ethan Hunt. Next one up. We've got Big Pops writes, hey, John and Rob. Rob's not here today. Huge fan since the AMC days. Thank you so much, Big Pops. I appreciate that. In the Morbius trailer, when we see the poster of Spider-Man in the alley, and it clearly looks like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit, is it possible that Morbius is in Tobey's Spider-Man universe? I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. To me, I got more of a Spider-Man the video game vibe from it. So I don't think they were trying to say anything. Look, a Spider-Man suit to me is a Spider-Man suit. I mean, that's just, I know a lot of people disagree, but I don't think they were implying anything there personally. But if you're going to ask me if that's a possibility, as I pour myself a drink here, excuse me as I do this. If you're asking me if that's a possibility, of course it is. There's only a handful of possibilities. It could be in Andrew's universe, could be in Tobey's universe, could be in Tom's universe, could be in Venom's universe. They all could be in a totally separate thing. I mean, there's literally only so many options. So him being in Tobey's, yeah, that's absolutely an option. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but it's a very, very valid possibility that could be that. All right, Mark C. writes, I don't remember hearing this reported here. On January 10th, pinup queen and B movie actress Julie Strain died at the age of 58. She suffered from early onset of dementia due to a brain injury suffered 35 years ago. Oh, that's horrible to hear. I don't even remember hearing about that, to be honest. That's awful. I mean, the notion of, it's kind of like when, one of the big tragedies, everybody passing away is a tragedy, but one of the things that I really feel like is tragedy is some dude who, because they're younger and they're dumb, smokes a lot. But then, realizes, hey man, this is terrible for me. I need to stop. And quitting smoking is not easy. I've had friends who have tried multiple times to quit smoking. It's not easy. So I got a lot of admiration for people who were able to actually quit smoking. I got a lot of admiration. My dad was a smoker for a long time. And when I was much younger, I guess he just decided, no, this is bad for me. And he just quit cold turkey. Because you gotta, everybody thinks this way. My dad is like the ultimate man. Like he's just, no, I need to quit smoking. Boom, quit smoking. Everybody else wrestles and struggles with crap because it's hard. My dad's just like, I'm going to quit smoking. And he just quit smoking. Anyway, what's really tragic is when you hear about people who had that kind of force of will to just go, hey, I realize this is terrible for me. I'm going to quit. And they quit smoking like 15 years ago, but the damage was done. And their lives eventually do get cut short because of what they did, even though they realized, oh, this is bad, and then had the force of will to make changes in their lifestyle and all that, and yet they still had to pay the price later. It's always tragic to hear about stuff like that, like something that happens as a result of an injury 35 years ago, and it cuts you short. I mean, that's always sad to hear. Anyway, thanks for sharing that, Mark. I appreciate that, man. Let's see. Anonymous viewer writes, congrats on the house. Thank you so much. Ann and I are going over to it again today to check on all the progress. A tip I learned the hard way in 2020, make sure your house is high-speed internet ready ASAP. It took me 2+ months to get the cable line brought over from street. My new house is in an older neighborhood. Can't do without the show. LOL. Well, thank you so much, man. Hey, listen, just side note again, we've already seen a couple of questions sent in today that are marked anonymous. Let me just bring your attention to this again, guys, if you will indulge me and if you don't mind. When you go over to the tip link to send in a tip or a question, and when you go to streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip, notice right under that handsome face of mine in that circle picture, the top line says your name. A lot of times people forget to fill out your name, and so it comes through as anonymous. And that's cool. If you want to come through as anonymous, that's perfectly fine. It's just that if you're being so good as to send us in a fun question to talk about, and you're tipping us and you're supporting the show, I just might want to make sure we give you guys a shout out, give your name a shout out. If you don't want to put in your name, that's totally cool too. But just remember, if you do intend to give us your name, just remember to fill out that top line, because I want to make sure we give you guys a shout out. Anyway, yes, my house is absolutely high-speed internet ready. I've already got the appointment, the 26th, which is just a couple of days before we move in. I'm having my new high-speed business class. I'm not skimping this time. I'm going all the way to business class. My business class high-speed internet, we're installing a couple of days from in. I'm meeting a guy who specializes in networking in a house. I don't have a lot of things that need to actually be plugged in. My Wi-Fi is actually really, really good. But like this computer, when I'm doing live streaming, I want it actually cable plugged in. So I got a contractor coming over to run cable to make sure it goes from where in the house the modem and the router are going to be to run into the new studio to make sure I can actually cable in. So yep, I'm looking after all that. Message heard, and I'm 100% with you. You do got to make sure of this stuff in advance. These are questions you need to ask, Anonymous, and I'm glad that you did. All right. Next one up. Cutter Hale writes, hey, John, I was really excited about the 355, but then I was looking through the release schedule yesterday and saw they pushed it back to January 2022. 2022. Do you have any thoughts about this? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Now that's the female spy movie, right? With Peter Nwango. I think that's the one. Let me just make sure that that is indeed the one that we are talking about. Yes, that is the one we are talking about, the 355. Yeah, it was supposed to come out, I think, already. Listen to this lineup, okay? Listen to this lineup. First of all, it's got one of my favorite actresses in the world, and Jessica Chastain. I mean, Jessica Chastain. You've got from Inglourious Bastards, you got Diane Kruger, who I'm sure she's going to be amazing in this. You've got Penelope Cruz, Lupita Nyong'o, Bing Bing fan, Sebastian Stan, which a lot of people want to see as young Luke Skywalker. Anyway, I remember the trailer for this came out ages ago. And being directed by Simon Kinberg, who I believe is going to do, now that he's directed one movie, and he's finally got his first movie under his belt, I believe this movie is going to be a big improvement over his first one, because now he's actually got some directing experience. But anyway, this is one I've been very excited about. Again, Jessica Chastain is one of my absolute favorites. Lupita Nyong'o is an Academy Award-winning actress and one of the most beautiful beings on the face of the planet. Diane Kruger, Penelope. I mean, it's just a great lineup. And yeah, I heard it got pushed to 2022, which, it sucks, but it is what it is. So, one of the things that we talked about, as you get a glimpse of my incredibly stupidly long hair, because look at that. Look how long that hair is, because I need a haircut badly. All the haircut places by me are closed. Anyway, where was I? I just got sidetracked in my head with fantasies of taking my electric razor and flipping out the clipper part and just shaving my damn head. I'm really getting I'm starting to grow a mullet. Check this out. This is getting dangerously close to mullet territory. This is getting dangerously close to Canadian ice pond hockey mullet right here. I gotta get this cut. Anyway, the problem is my wife wants me to grow it. And it's very tough. Anyway, what the hell were we talking about? Yes, the 355. Very excited about it, but it is a bummer. Here's the thing. When all the movies started to get bumped into 2021, one of the problems that we talked about that they were all going to face was the fact that, hey, now 2021 is getting very, very overcrowded. And we always knew there were probably going to be some high profile films that had to get nudged all the way to 2022. And the 355 appears to be one of those. But regardless, I am still very much looking forward to it. Okay, next up. That was Cutter Hale. Next up is Brandon Plummer, who writes, "Hey, John. I made a short film. Good on ya. It's called Saturn 9, and it just released on Rob's channel. I've thanked Rob, but I wanted to thank you as well. I've been listening to you guys to tell me to do it for years, and you finally convinced me, so thank you." That is awesome. Now, I did a video a while ago. A good while ago called, where is it? It's one of my thoughts on walks. And where is my thoughts? There it is. And it's called Why You and All Film Fans Should Make a Movie or Short Film on YouTube. You should, and I go through all the reasons why. Let me just bring it up here. You can see right here. Here it is. It's the very first one under the Thoughts on Walks. If you go to my main YouTube channel, Thoughts on Walks, and I won't go into all the reasons again, but I really do feel like it's really good for a film fan, just for fun, to make their own short film or their own movie. And I go through some things in that video, and I'm totally glad you did. Rob had such a great idea about doing his own little film festival. I thought that was a terrific idea. And I was so excited to see and hear about how many of you guys actually sent in your own short films and movies. That was great. So good on you for doing that, Brandon, and I look forward to watching it. All right, next up, we've got Deuce Wayne, who writes, one of two. "Hey, John. I'd love to see the next Wonder Woman film take on the espionage thriller genre, similar to Winter Soldier. Her scenes in Batman vs. Superman at the gala showing her investigative side were really memorable. And inevitably, there's diminishing returns on fighting /God alien-like bad guys. Switching it up could be a breath of fresh air. It'll ground the character and avoid plot holes so often created by the daunting task of managing global-scale catastrophes. Just my thoughts, rooting for Godot and Jenkins." That would be interesting. I don't know that the Wonder Woman character is very well suited to the espionage part, though. I think what you are right about, though, that I will completely agree with you, is that there's different avenues and subgenres of filmmaking to explore. I don't know if the Wonder Woman character, unlike a Batman character, is very well suited for an espionage thing. I will also say this. While I have said many times, and I do believe that Gal Gadot continues to get better, and Evelyn sent in a super chat badge on the live chat stream. Thank you so much for that, Evelyn. Appreciate that. I believe it is absolutely true that Gal Gadot continues to get better as an actress. That being said, I still don't think she is at a place where she could do a thriller type of, because that takes a little bit more heavy lifting when it comes to acting chops. And I don't know that she's there yet. But you never know. She may surprise. But I think even in Wonder Woman 84, I think we clearly see her continue to get better. But can she carry a film in a genre that requires more heavy lifting when it comes to pure acting, like a thriller kind of thing, I'm not so sure about that. Now, what's going to be very interesting to see is that she is working with another very good director in Kenneth Branagh in Death on the Nile. And she's got a role in that. I don't know yet whether there's going to be a lot required of her in that or not. She's not the main star of the movie. She's not required to carry the movie, but I think we're going to get a very good look at really how far has Gal Gadot evolved as an actress. She has traditionally not been very good, but she does continue to get better, and that's all you can ask of anybody. And I think I'm going to be very, very curious to see how she does in a movie like Death on the Nile. I think that's going to give us a lot of insight. And maybe watching her in that would change my mind about whether or not she could do a thriller kind of Wonder Woman movie. It'll be interesting to see. Let's see what they're able to do in Death on the Nile. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Deuce. Next up, we've got Ulysses Smith III writes. Hi, Mr. Campea. It's been a while since I had the luxury of keeping up with your videos, but I have good reason due to 2020. 2020 is all the reason you need for anything. I was watching X-Men Days of Future Past, and at the ending, when everyone returns, a thought came to me that would be that the sequels would have been better off with the original cast, since X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix was not to standard. I like the young cast, but I just don't understand why return, bring the original cast back to life to not use them. Maybe it was no point, but X-Men deserve better to me. I don't agree. I think you don't, listen, we always say this. Characters are not there to serve the actors. Actors are there to serve the characters. And stories are not there to serve the characters. Characters are there to serve the stories. That's the pecking order. Most important, story. Second most important, the characters. Lastly is the actor. And actors are super important, but story comes first. Characters come second. The actors playing them come third. That's the clear pecking order to me. So that being said, that last little bit in Days of Future Past was really meant as something fun for the audience. It was just fan service. You know, X-Men Days of Future Past to me is indeed in the top 10 greatest comic book films of all time. It's magnificent. I love that movie so much. It is truly one of the best comic book movies ever made. And other than Logan, probably the best X-Men movie ever made, other than Logan. Logan, which is a top 3, in my opinion. That being said, again, to me, the whole thing about bringing those characters back, it was all about just something fun at the end for the audience, right? No deeper meaning, no whatever. Because remember, under Fox, and this for the most part worked for them, there was no real continuity in any of the films. Remember, I've always said this, in the hollowed halls of Fox Studios, carved in marble on the walls is continuity schmontinuity, at least when it comes to X-Men. All the X-Men things have major continuity problems. They've never really cared about continuity in the X-Men universe. They just cared about making the best movies they could. Now, yes, every once in a while you got an X-Men Origins Wolverine. Every once in a while you got an X-Men 3. Those happen. But for the most part, they pretty much crushed it. X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class, Logan. I mean, they crushed it. And continuity was never their strong suit. So it really didn't matter. And no, I don't think they should have used the original cast for these other stories, because the original cast wouldn't fit those stories that they told, particularly with First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past. They just don't fit. So I think we need to take that final scene in X-Men Days of Future Past in the way that it was meant. It was meant as just something fun to put a big smile on everybody in the audience's face, seeing Jean and Kelsey Grammer back as Beast, and all. It was just a good fun thing. That's all. I don't think it changes what they should have done with the films overall, but that's just my opinion. Thank you for sharing yours, Ulysses. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up, Nick C. writes, Do you think Timothy Chalamet would be a great Wiccan of the Young Avengers if you know about that character? Listen, Timothy Chalamet, what do I always say? I don't care about X actor and X role. I don't care about that. I just don't care. All I care about is the actor you're talking about a gifted and talented actor? That's all I care about. Timothy Chalamet right now is not the greatest actor in the world. He's not. But he has the potential to be the greatest actor in the world. I am telling you, I have never seen a kid, and he ain't a kid anymore. Hold on a second. Let me just look this up. Timothy Chalamet age. He's probably in his, I think he's 24 or something like that. He's 25 now. So he's 25. So he was like 20 or something like that when he got his first Academy Award nomination. I am simply saying that, and he just had his birthday, just turned 25. I have never seen a kid, quote unquote kid, at that age as good as he is right now. He's not the best in the world. He's not Daniel Day-Lewis, and he's not Chiwetel Ejiofor, and he's not Denzel Washington, and he's not Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's not these guys yet. But I have never seen somebody at that age who's already as good as he is. It's frightening how good he is. Now, maybe his growth gets stunted. And, he's already, an Academy nominated actor. And if this is as good as he gets and he just stunts his growth right now as an actor, he's still going to have a great career. He's going to have an amazing career. But if we're talking about acting, like pure acting talent in terms of mutant powers, I've never seen a potentially more powerful mutant than this. Like, he's the only guy I've ever thought, this kid has the potential. I'm not saying he's going to be, he has the potential. This is the first kid I've ever seen who I can look at and honestly say, this dude has the potential to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. Now, he's got a long way to go in his career. He's got a long way to go. But I'm just saying, I think he is better than DiCaprio was at 24 and 25. I think he's better than Denzel was at 24, 25. Daniel Day-Lewis, close. But I'm just saying, for me, and it's all subjective, it is frightening. So anyway, getting back to the question. Since I don't care about X actor and X role questions, all I care about is he talented. Timothy Chalamet, with the exception of some extreme examples that maybe you could throw at me, Timothy Chalamet, with those very few exceptions, would be great in just about any role because he's just one of the best in the world. So that's my thought on that. Quirky Joe is mentioning in the live chat, Saoirse Ronan is all. Saoirse Ronan, you could have the same. If you want to talk about somebody with the potential to be the next Meryl Streep, that's Saoirse Ronan. She's really. We could talk about that another time though. All right, next up, Rich Mid writes, I rewatched the, I don't know what POTA is, trilogy with my son. By the way, guys, please don't send in acronyms because now I don't know what you're talking about. With my son this week, first time for him, and still cannot believe Andy Serkis didn't receive Best Actor nomination at the Oscars for his portrayal. Oh, Planet of the Apes. Guys, again, please don't write in acronyms. That Andy Serkis didn't receive a Best Actor nomination, at least, for his portrayal of Caesar. Do you think we could ever see a mocap performance receive a nomination? Yes. And listen, I will tell you what. I remember me and John Schnepp would have this debate. While it is true, now there are some people like the great departed John Schnepp who would say, well, listen, when you're talking about a mocap performance like Andy Serkis, you got to understand, and he's true, and he's right, it's not just the actor. There are visual effects artists, and there's all this stuff that goes on, and it's not just the actor. And that's a valid point. It is. That is a valid point. My counter to that point, though, is this. It's never just the actor. When you see Scarlett Johansson killing it in a certain scene, there are many elements that are going in to that performance that are like little add-ons to the performance. There are many different things that become influential to the performance. The camera angle that is selected changes our perception of the performance. The costume that the actor is wearing changes our perception of the performance. The way the makeup artists do their makeup and their hair, it all kind of influences and augments. That's the word I was looking for earlier, augments. There are many different things that augment our perception as an audience of the performance being given. And so while yes, in mocap, the actor has a digital costume being put on them and there's other things being done to augment their performance, I would simply argue that even live action performances have a lot of different little elements that go in that augment our perception of the performance. So it has been the only time, the second Planet of the Apes movie is the only time I have ever felt I don't believe that Josh Brolin deserved an Academy Award nomination for Thanos or anything like that. The only time I've ever felt that way is that movie with Andy Serkis portraying Caesar, that I legitimately felt that performance deserved an Academy Award nomination. But it's going to be tough because there are many very smart, knowledgeable, insightful people who just think that the augmentation of CGI is too much. It's too much to consider a performance as a best acting or best supporting acting performance. I disagree, and that's going to be. But here's the thing. Again, it's hard to have the discussion because to me, it's only happened legitimately one time that it could have been considered. So we'll have to see where that goes from there. But yeah, his performance is amazing. And by the way, Wakanda Forever and Joshua Martinez send in super chat badges in the live chat. Thanks for that, guys. Appreciate that. Anyway, great question, Rich. Great question. Okay, next up. Barbert writes, what if Chris Evans returns as Captain America in The Secret Invasion, Nick Fury? It could be that a Skrull is impersonating Cap. I give it a 23% chance. Again, that's obviously a possibility. There are many, 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 many legitimate possibilities. That is certainly one of them. But my one kind of reservation about that, or hesitation that could be what it is they're doing, is the fact that does Chris Evans actually come back out of his very short-lived retirement to play a fake Captain America? I don't know that he does. Now you could say, but John, in that Thor movie, Loki impersonated Captain America and Chris Evans came into that. Well, yeah, because he was already in the MCU and it was just a quick one little scene. It was a quick one scene fun thing to do. So I don't think that equates. And by the way, Lore Howard sends in a super chat badge saying, keep it up in the live chat. Thank you so much, Lore. Appreciate that. I just don't know that Chris Evans comes back to play fake Captain America. I mean, maybe he does. I'm not saying he definitely doesn't. I just have a hard time imagining that he would, but that's just me. All right. Thanks for that, Bobbert. Next up, Arjun Kang writes, hey, John, did you hear that Lucasfilm games are no longer EA exclusive? Yep, we've been talking about that lately. And Ubisoft are developing an open world Star Wars game along with the Indiana Jones game at Bethesda. The future looks bright for Lucasfilm gaming content. All the best. Well, yes, it does. And I'm a sucker for Star Wars games. And this is why I'm looking forward to the Indiana Jones game. Star Wars games, even the bad ones, and there have been plenty of bad ones, but even the bad ones, they pull you in and make you a part of the Star Wars world, right? And just spending that time being drawn in and being a part of the world is amazing. That's why I'm looking forward to that Indiana Jones game. Like, there are so many games that out there already that are obviously heavily, heavily, heavily influenced by the Indiana Jones lore, whether it's Uncharted, Tomb Raider, whatever. There's so many games that are clearly heavily influenced and borrow a lot from Indiana Jones. It's going to be great just to have an Indiana Jones game then, just to have its own game. I think that has a lot of potential. I'm very, very excited about it, Arjun. I am. All right, next up. Captain Blue Pants writes, let me try that again. One thing that always gives me a chuckle in the film community is how fans talk about Marvel like they're CIA. Under Chris Evans's tweet, fans are like, we know they put you up to this and blink if you need help. Did the black suits turn up? LOL. Yeah, so what he's referring to, of course, is that Deadline yesterday, not Gus's gas station movie reviews.fart. Deadline came out and said, yeah, we've got a number of sources that have confirmed for us that Chris Evans is about to lock in his deal to return for at least one, possibly another MCU thing. He's coming back, right? Now, everybody knows about that. What some people may not know about, and let me see if I can bring this up here. Chris Evans Twitter. What not everybody knows about is that shortly after that, really without any context, he put out a tweet with no context that just said, news to me, right? And then I love the response from Chucky 2003. Sure it is, with the little wink. Anyway, now, this to me is clear. This is just a situation where Disney, Marvel did not want this news coming out yet. They didn't want this news coming out yet. And I bring your attention back to, hold on, let me see if I can find this one. Forgive me for wasting time here. Why did I just sneeze? So you guys remember a little while ago that news came out. Again, Disney didn't announce it, but one of the trades broke the news that Tatiana Maslany, good Canadian girl, good actress, the news broke that she had been cast to play She-Hulk, right? She had been cast to play She-Hulk. The thing is, it wasn't Disney that announced it. It wasn't Marvel that announcement. It's that one of the trades found out about it, confirmed it with their sources, and then reported it. But Disney and Marvel weren't ready for that news to come out yet. So what happened? Tatiana came out and denied it. Well, then fast forward a month or two, and all of a sudden, they have it official. It's official in the Marvel press releases now, in the Disney press release. Tatiana Maslany is She-Hulk, everybody. Well, yeah, now that they're ready, now they confirm it because now they're ready to have it announced and all that kind of stuff. To me, listen, if this was some random idiot YouTube channel like mine, if this was some random idiot, Gus's gas station movie reviews.fart website that people constantly take their rumors from, and then Chris Evans said news to me, then I would go, yeah, then this probably isn't true. But the reality is this came from Deadline. And when Deadline, I have a hard time over the years counting on one hand how many times Deadline has been straight up wrong about a report that they claim they have confirmed with several sources this is happening. I could count on one hand the amount of times they've been absolutely like just dead wrong about it. It basically doesn't happen. I mean, it happens, but it's so rare. So to me, it's pretty clear. And by the way, if you go back and look at Chris Evans's thing, he really doesn't put up much of a fight. He's not really denying it. And so to me, it's pretty clear. This is just that Disney wasn't ready for this to come out. And you watch in 2-3 months, just like what happened with Tatiana, in 2 or 3 months, some press release will come out from Disney that will then affirm it. But until that time, it's not really something that has to be worried about. But anyway, that's just me. All right, next up. Let's see. That was Captain Blue Pants. A-Train A writes, let's pump the brakes, people. The report said Evans will be back as Cap in some form, with no indication of what that means. Makes sense, unlike Iron Man or Black Widow. He did not die in Endgame. He's just old, so he's probably back as a mentor, not as Cap. I mean, that is a don't throw that out. Don't throw that possibility out. That is for sure a possibility. That he'll be back just as old man Cap, sitting in a Denny's having breakfast with Sam. Well, Sam, what I think you should do is shove that shield up your ass. I mean, I don't know, because he's old and he's grumpy now. I don't know. I'm just making shit up. You can't throw that away. You cannot throw that possibility away. I don't think Chris Evans is coming back just to play old man Steve Rogers. And I don't think, remember the report also said with the open door for another film on top of that as well. I don't think that's going to be, I don't think Chris Evans comes back to do that. I don't think he does that, but it's not an impossibility. You're 100% right. That it could be. I have a hard time imagining it, but you never know. You never know. Well pointed out, A-Train. All right, next up. The Wakanda Forever writes, Chris, please come back. We need Captain America now more than ever. We need all the help we can get. I will say it plain. Avengers Assemble, Wakanda Forever. Oh, listen, if you want to get the excitement of the MCU re-fired up again, Chris Evans coming back as Cap will do it. Again, to me, and I'm only speaking for myself. To me, Chris Evans as Captain America is the face, and he is the DNA. He is the best manifestation and representation of the MCU. And Carissa Singleton sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Good Canadian girl. Thank you for sending that in. I appreciate that. He's kind of the living embodiment. He is the moral North Star of the MCU. And so bringing him back to me is an absolute no-brainer. It's a brilliant move. How they're going to do it, we'll have to see. Maybe he's fake Captain America, a Skrull. Possible? Maybe. Maybe he's just going to be old man Captain America, not really Captain America. Maybe. Who knows? But we'll see. By the way, Emad writes in their live chat is asking, wait, did John just assume Carissa's nationality? Well, you see, when the super chat badge comes in, it tells you the nationality of the currency. And she's sending in currency from Canada. So yes, I was able to ascertain that, just for anybody who was wondering. Okay, next up. Luke1234 writes, I wonder if the audiences who watched Alien, Predator, Terminator, and RoboCop knew at the time these characters would become icons of cinema. I mean, that's the thing. I've heard so many discussions with I was obviously never there for the world premiere of Star Wars or saw it in its initial thing, but you go back and it's very, very rare that you watch something and this is going to become iconic. The last time I can remember watching something where I thought either this movie or this thing in this movie is going to become iconic and talked about maybe forever. The last time I really felt that in my very first viewing was probably Schindler's List. Watching Schindler's List the first time, I remember thinking, this movie is going to be talked about for the rest of my lifetime and probably more. This is going to be a movie that does get talked about forever. And sure enough, everybody knows Schindler's List. Not everybody's seen Schindler's List. Everybody knows Schindler's List. But I don't know. So for that reason, no, I doubt that people who were the first to watch RoboCop or were the first to watch Alien or Terminator probably knew immediately this is going to be like a forever thing. I don't know that they probably felt that. It's usually something that evolves and stuff like that over time. All right. Wakandan Forever writes, one of two. So now with the multiverse, Marvel can bring back anyone. Well, they've always brought back people. They didn't need the multiverse to bring back people. They've always just come up with whatever reason they want to bring them back. They don't need the multiverse. They can do whatever they want to bring people back. Anyway, except for Black Panther, apparently, there is no absolute chance we will ever see this character portrayed on the big screen again. Or do we have to wait for the 2068 reboot? That was one too. To me, it's not recasting Superman It's not recasting Superman out of respect for Christopher Reeve. It's asinine. Yet Brandon Routh or Henry Cavill being Superman doesn't take anything away from that. Christopher Reeves is still revered today as he was 40 years ago. Well, yeah, listen, this goes back to an older debate. The debate, of course, of should they recast T'Challa? To me, it is an obvious, no questions asked scenario. Yes, you recast T'Challa. T'Challa is too important of a character. And while it is an insanely huge tragedy that we lost the one actor who was portraying him, it's time for another actor to pick up that baton for him and continue the race for him. To continue the race for Chadwick Boseman. You carry it on. And you're right. Christopher Reeve, first of all, Christopher Reeve had the tragedy with the horse accident, and then we lost Christopher Reeve. Other people play Superman. It's not disrespectful to Christopher Reeve for other people to play Superman. Adam West recently passed away. We have other people playing Batman. It's not disrespectful to Adam West that other people are playing Batman. Now, there is, of course, a bit of a difference in the sense that, when Brandon Routh put on the Superman cape, it was a different Superman in a different franchise. When Henry Cavill put on the Superman cape, it's a different iteration of the character in a new version of it. That is all true. But I don't believe the difference is of like a massive magnitude. But Disney made their decision. They decided they wanted to move forward without the character T'Challa because of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And you know what? Listen, I have all the faith in the world in Kevin Feige. I have all the faith in the world in Ryan Coogler. They will figure out a way to make this work and make it work well. But yes, and so I'm fine with it. But at the end of the day, I do think they should have recast the character. I think that would have been the more respectful thing to do for Chadwick Boseman. I think that would have made much more sense for the story itself. And I think it does the character of T'Challa a great injustice that now this amazing character that was inspirational to hundreds of millions of people is now wiped off the books. This character that was T'Challa, which was so culturally important, and so inspirational for so many people, we're just taking that character off the books now. I think it's a mistake. Not a tragic mistake. It's not a mistake that's going to end the MCU. Nothing like that. I'm sure they're going to do a great job. I'm sure they will do a great job with whatever direction they decide to go. But it is, in my opinion, a mistake nonetheless. And that's just kind of my thought. Anyway, we could talk about that all day. All right, next up. Dean Dillon writes, "Hey, John, I just wanted to ask what you think of Patty Jenkins doing Star Wars Squadrons and Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi doing a Star Wars movie, and what you think is going to be set in the Star Wars universe." Well, they're both Star Wars movies, so they are both going to be set in the Star Wars universe. But what do I think in general of Patty Jenkins and Taika Waititi? Listen, I love them both as directors. They're great. Now, listen, I wasn't a big fan of Wonder Woman 84. We've covered that ground enough, but I'm clearly not a fan of Wonder Woman 84. But I think Patty Jenkins is an incredible director. Taika Waititi is quickly becoming like one of my favorites. So whenever you bring incredibly talented, gifted storytellers into Star Wars, I'm going to get excited. We got Kevin Feige working on a Star Wars film. And now we got Taika Waititi working on a Star Wars film. Rogue Squadron sounds amazing. Especially with her promise of just a lot of fighter action. Just a lot of just fighter pilot action. Her whole announcement was about that. Her dad was an Air Force fighter pilot. She wants to bring that to the screen. I'm very excited for it. I think it all sounds great, and I'm very, very, very excited. All right, next up. Loverboy writes, DC needs to compete with Marvel when it comes to multiverse. So no, they don't. They absolutely don't. Absolutely, they do not. They do not need to do anything of the sort. They can or they cannot. There's a lot of different ways to make great movies. What DC needs to do is make great movies. That's it. That's a huge thing, but that is the singular thing. They need to make great movies. They don't have to do multiverse. They don't have to do anything. They just need to make great movies. But anyway, that said, Over under 9%. Either Shaq Steele, oh my God, Shaquille O'Neal Steele, Halle Berry's Catwoman, Nick Cage's Superman, Josh Brolin's Jonah Hex, Arnold's Mr. Freeze, or Nuclear Man appear in Flash. Out of these, which is likely? None of them will happen. None of them will happen. Number one, you will never convince Arnold Schwarzenegger to put on a Mr. Freeze costume. Number two, you will never convince Halle Berry to put on a Catwoman costume again. Number three, everybody wants to forget that Josh Brolin's Jonah Hex ever happened. And no, they're not going to do it. So no, none. Now, if I had to, Loverboy, if I had to say, pick one of them that is more likely out of the rest, I will say, God. I'll say Brolin's Jonah Hex. After all, I mean, they did bring Jonah Hex into the CW DC universe in Legends of Tomorrow. And Josh Brolin's a big hot name. Again, I think it is an utter impossibility, but still, if I had to pick one out of that group that is most likely, I will say Jonah Hex. I will say Jonah Hex. Anyway, there's that. Okay, next up. Wakandan Forever writes. We already had that. And Sergio sends in a super chat badge in the live chat saying, keep it up. Thank you, Sergio. I appreciate that, man, very much. Thanks for the support. All right. Mark 2021 writes, hey, John. There is a movie based in the UK called This Is England. I've not heard of that. Called This Is England. I just wonder if you've seen it. If not, I highly recommend it. Also made it into a TV series. It's about the skinhead culture of the 1980s. Great story, great characters, and I think you'd enjoy. I have never heard of it, but the skinhead culture is really, actually, back when I was in high school, I was no skinhead at all, but I had a buddy named Mike who was a skinhead. Wore his jacket a certain way, had the Doc Martens, the whole bit. And he was not the traditional skinhead per se, but he was also a really good drummer. And he was one of the first drummers that he was one of the very first times I ever played in a band was with Mike. It was me, my best friend at the time, Brennan, who I've told you guys about many, many times. My friend Brennan, who passed away a couple of years ago. And Mike. It was one of the very first bands I ever played in. I had my guitar, my keyboard. Brennan was a much better keyboard player than me. And Mike had his drums. And it was one of our first things. Anyway, how did I get on that sidetrack? Oh, yeah, skinhead culture of the 1980s. Anyway, I am not familiar with it, but I will definitely keep my eyes open because that kind of stuff has always been interesting to me. So thanks for sharing that, Mark. All right, next up. Piz writes, what did Pablo Hidalgo think of the Wonder Woman ending? Just messing with you. Just Pablo Hidalgo and Wonder Woman all in one. Just messing with you. Just curious, what first-person shooter do you stream at? Oh, what frames per second do you stream at? It looks like 60 frames per second and it looks really good, but my laptop doesn't seem able to handle it. Love the dock. Yes, I do stream at 60 frames per second. Why do I stream at 60 frames per second? I'm not really sure, other than I just really like the look of it. I have cameras that will do 60 frames per second. Both this camera here and this camera here, they both do 60 frames per second. I use the Sony a6400 cameras in my studio. And I do set up my streaming software, Wirecast, or right now I've been testing out OBS Studio. I've been using OBS Studio because a lot of their updates are very, very impressive. It used to be OBS Studio could never compete with Wirecast. OBS Studio was just a very, very poor man's version of Wirecast. But I had some friends tell me, you know what, in the last 8 to 10 months, they've made some updates to OBS Studio that really make it appealing and attractive. So I decided I'm going to give it a good solid run. So I'm using OBS Studio right now, but it also gives me the ability to stream at 60 frames per second. And it just has a nice, more glassy, more smooth, sharper. I don't know. I just really like the 60 frames per second. That's me. So anyway, yeah, thanks for noticing, Piz. I appreciate that. All right, next up. Jamie E., we're almost out of time here, guys. I'll get through as many as I can here before we wrap up. Jamie E. writes, new to the show and loving it here in the UK. Well, glad you're joining us here, Jamie. Thanks for being here, man. And you tipped in like $20. Thank you so much for your support, man. I appreciate that. Also listen to the podcast in the car on the way to work. Awesome. Thank you for that. Have you seen Chris Brooks' Death to 2020? And what are your thoughts? Plus, what are your favorite Black Mirror episodes? I don't watch Black Mirror. The only Black Mirror episode I saw was the one with, what's her name from, what is her name in the last Terminator movie? And she was, I think it wasn't Burn Notice that she was in. I'm forgetting the name of the actress. Anyway, there's this one episode of Black Mirror where these two girls meet and fall in love. And it turns out that they are actually in a virtual world and they never meet, at least not in the main part of the story. They never meet outside. Actually, that episode won an Emmy Award or two. And it's killing me trying to remember the name of the actress. Anyway, this blonde actress, if you got Mackenzie Davis, thank you. Quirky Joe threw it in there. Yes, Mackenzie Davis. That is who did it. Thank you, Quirky Joe. Mackenzie Davis starred in that episode, and it's great. It's a great episode, but I've never watched any of the rest of it. And no, I have watched the trailer for Death to 2020, but I have not gotten around to watching it. So I'm not really a Black Mirror watcher, even though I'm not crapping on the show. I just never watch it other than that one episode, which I did think was really good. And I've not gotten around to Death to 2020 myself. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure it's even on my watch list. I watched the trailer, thought, well, that looks funny, but I don't know that I want to commit like an hour plus to sit down and watch it. But it does look kind of interesting. All right. Thanks for that, Jamie. And we're glad to have you here. Welcome being a new viewer, man. All right. Tyler writes and tipped $500. Okay. I'll tell you the story about Tyler in a second. All right. So hi, John and crew. After doing some quick maths, I realized this year we're looking 46 to 47 weeks of MCU content if the movies don't overlap, and all the MCU shows besides What If, which has 10 episodes, will have 6 episodes. What do you think? And thanks. I'm not sure if that math adds up. I'd have to sit down and do that. Now, just so you know, so Tyler sent this in 21 hours ago. What happened was I was doing my show yesterday. And of course, yesterday's show was later in the day because I had some technicians out here working on some stuff. So I did one a little bit later in the day. And as soon as I had finished the show, I had this email message from poor Tyler. And Tyler wrote, "Dear Mr. Campea," he was like, "I am so sorry. I meant to tip in $5. I did not meant to put in 500, which because of whatever currency thing it put out to be 501.67. I really didn't mean to put. I'm so sorry for any misunderstanding. I feel so bad. Is there any? I can't afford that. Is there any way you can refund me that?" So I'm like, yeah, no problem. We got it covered. Don't worry about it. So yes. It was that, but yes, so fortunately for me, I didn't know about this $500 tip until after I read Tyler's email. Tyler's email was the first indication I have it. So I was very prepared for that. So don't worry. We got Tyler all straightened out. Anyway, that being said, I don't know that we're getting all that this year. We're not getting all that this year. Like She-Hulk, Moon Knight, like all these shows, they aren't coming out this year. So there are some that are, there's some are not. So I don't think we're getting, 46 to 47 weeks. I'm not sure we're getting that much, but maybe we are. Either way, we are getting MCU content and we're going to get a lot of it. And I'm very excited for it. And one of the big things is that, especially for Disney Plus, and for those of us who have it, is that unlike last year, when Disney Plus rolled out with Mandalorian and we all got excited, and then a year of nothing, crickets. This year, already much different. We get Mandalorian season 2, we wait a few weeks, Now we got WandaVision, and we're going to get a much more regular cadence of content than we did before. And that's very important. And so I am looking forward to the MCU content, but I'm just looking forward to Disney Plus becoming worth having. Becoming a legitimate player now that they're actually going to be releasing original material. And I'm talking about premium original material, not the little filler stuff that they've been putting out all year. Like the actual premium content like HBO puts out. Like it's exciting. It's a very, very exciting time. Okay. Anyway, last question of the day that we'll take today, guys, comes to us from Stubble McShave, who writes, with 100 million vaccinations in the first 100 days, starting from second half of January, means that there will be 100 million vaccinations by the end of April. The vaccinations doesn't take real effect for a couple of weeks. It takes another 100 million vaccinations to reach sufficient levels. It depends on which vaccinations there are. There are different vaccinations. One of them requires 2 shots. Anyway. Yeah, so this all comes from the conversation that we've been having about when can we realistically, with the light at the end of the tunnel now and the vaccinations rolling out, when can we realistically expect that the movies will start coming out again and the theaters will reopen? March and April are too soon, right? So that's why there was no surprise that Morbius got moved. There's no surprise that James Bond is getting moved. March and April are simply too soon. I think the earliest, most optimistic, hyper optimistic is mid to late May. I think it's more realistic that we're looking at June and July. I think June and July is when we'll look at these movies coming out again with the theaters reopening and all that kind of stuff. I think if we can get to 100+ million people immunized, then I think that'll do it. Now, this brings up the other huge question. Okay, it's great that the new administration is saying that they're aiming for 100 million vaccinations in the first 100 days, but that is not going to be easy to do. It's one thing to say you're going to do it, and that's a great goal, but it's another thing to actually be able to pull it off, because it's going to be a logistical nightmare. So this, of course, is assuming that they're able to pull off that 100 million vaccinations in 100 days. If they can do 100 million vaccinations in 100 days with all the other factors involved and the domino effect of those vaccinations, then yeah, we'll be in pretty good shape. But it may not be that fast. That might be overly optimistic. I don't know. I'm no expert. I am no expert. But that's just kind of the way I'm sort of seeing it right now. All right, listen, guys. There are still more questions to come. We've got Chris and Sergeant Ward and John and Chris Flack and others. So what I'm going to do, guys, instead of making you wait all the way till Monday, this weekend we will be doing a companion video, and we're going to get caught up as much as we can. So if you've sent in a question and you didn't see it answered today, we're almost caught up, guys. We're almost caught up and didn't see it answered today. Don't worry, you're going to see your question answered here very quickly. You sent in those questions, you tipped to the show, you supported the channel. I'm going to get to your questions as fast as I can. So there will be a companion video this weekend. And guys, that'll do it for me for this Friday edition of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show a part of your day. Again, special thanks to all you guys who sent in those live tip questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about today. But number two, you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here involved with the show, thank you guys very, very much for making these shows possible. All right, guys, don't forget, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please, please, please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.